Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with the chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee, and welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. Delighted you could join us. Hope everyone is doing well, enjoying the holiday season. We are delighted that you're here. We've got an awesome show this evening. We've got a huge celebrity in the Wabash Valley that's joining us. He needs no introduction, but tell our viewers who you are.
Yeah, Cooper Neese. I play basketball here for Indiana State. Been here for almost 6 years now and approaching, so pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, Cooper, we appreciate you coming back. I think the last time you joined us, we were down live at the Vigo County Fair. And, you know, that was a beautiful summer evening. It was very warm here in the heart of our studio in downtown Terre Haute. I think the temperature is actually warmer than it was that summer evening. Yep. So I know that you guys work out awful hard, and part of your conditioning is probably to use saunas and whirlpools and things. So we're just kind of getting you a free sauna treatment here tonight without the water or anything else. But we sure appreciate you joining us. And, of course, you are well known to people in the Wabash Valley, and of course you were educated just down the road here. So talk about your background a little bit to our viewers.
Yeah, just from Cloverdale, Indiana, right up the road. It's about a 35-minute drive, give or take. You know, go to and from back at home when you get close to these holiday seasons to be able to see some family. It's taken for granted because a lot of these guys on my team can't do that.
Right.
So, you know, it just gives me a little extra motivation, a little sweet time with family that really strives me to be the best that I can be down here and playing basketball and doing what I love to do. You know, so growing up as a little kid, that's all I've ever known and it's all I've ever done. So
Cooper, I assume your name's on some signage at Cloverdale, home of Cooper Neese. I'm certain of that. And of course, you're a household name in Cloverdale, but also throughout the Wabash Valley. You spent many a basketball game on the courts in Vigo County, for instance, and you were, of course, well known through your performances at the Classic that took place about this time of the year back in high school. So many people were out to see you play at that time. Could you talk about some of those special memories of those events in that particular tournament?
It's, to me, in my personal opinion, I think it's the best high school basketball tournament in the state. And then not being able to play in it my freshman year was kind of a bummer, and then get to be able to play in it, you know, the next 3 years was, you know, I'm extremely grateful for it. And, you know, Gary Fears, you know, ran a tremendous tournament throughout the entire time I was there for the 3 years. I loved it. It was high caliber competition, playing against high caliber coaches too, as well with their teams. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, we fell short about every time to be able to win that one. But it was by far the funnest tournament I think I've ever been a part of. Especially just being right down the road. You know, family comes and supports, friends come and support. So you get a good crowd when you're in there. And, you know, once the championship game comes around, it feels about like what it does in here. It gets a little warm in there when they fill that place out. So it's been a lot of fun.
Of course, you scored enough points in the 3 years to make up for 4, I think. But talk about those crowds, though. And I know that you played in front of packed houses. It seemed like everywhere you played at Cloverdale. But that was something different playing in those gyms, a little bigger gyms, and they were full to the roof with fans. So that had to be a fun experience.
It is, and when you get a crowd that's you know, in it just as much as you are, and you know, laying their heart on the line for their team, it gets loud, it gets crazy, and it gets steamy, and it gets hot in there, and it makes the environment so much more better. You know, especially for us players. When you've got somebody either rooting against you, you know, you fight a little bit harder. You got somebody rooting for you, you fight a little bit harder. So those atmospheres have always been, you know, some of the best. And, you know, people talk about it all the time. You can fill out, you know, like Holman Center, 10,000 people in there. And I've been in gyms in high school where they hold 4,000 or 5,000 people. And I promise you it gets louder in there. The floor gets to shaking and everything else. So
right. Yeah, they don't build them like that anymore, some of those gyms. Of course, you at that time, back in your high school days, had a lot of people in Terre Haute rooting against you, as it was, but they were sure hoping that you might make your way to Indiana State so they'd have an opportunity to root for you. And it's been awful special that you've been able to do that. Can you talk about how that experience has been for you, coming to Terre Haute and Indiana State in particular?
It's been life changing. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love this place to my heart. And even from when I transferred from Butler and when I made the decision to go to Butler, something didn't necessarily sit right with me even when I did that. And still a great community up there at Butler. I've got connections, family, friends, people that still play, and wonderful campus, wonderful, university as it is. But just being there, something didn't feel right. And shortly, 3 months, 4 months, being up there, I got called home. This is where I felt like I was called to, went through my recruiting process, and to be able to have the ability to, like I say, make your second decision and kind of get a little bit of redemption, and be able to come back down here to the people I'm familiar with, that I know and I love, to be able to fight and understand that, hey, you're playing for the Sycamores. This is Terre Haute community. You're playing for them. You're not just playing for yourself. So being able to understand that it's bigger than yourself, your decisions are bigger than yourself. I've learned a lot, in my 5.5 years here so far.
So if you attend an Indiana State men's basketball game, you would think half the crowd is related to you, Cooper, because they all refer to you and are talking to you throughout the whole game. You're able to pick up some of that information from the stands, or you just feel locked in? But
I typically, when it's go time and that ball's tipped up, I'm pretty laser focused, locked in. But no, I do have a great support system that comes and supports me, whether they buy their own tickets or I get them tickets. They don't. Sometimes they tell me they're coming, and sometimes they don't. So, but I never take it for granted. I look up in the crowd and I see, who's there and who's not. And then come game time, I'm pretty well focused and locked in. So I'm extremely grateful for those people, and even the people that I might not necessarily know that come and support us like they do every single day. I'm just as grateful for them as well. So.
There's no question you're a fan favorite, and you wouldn't have to go to many games to figure that out. And of course, the way you play, as hard as you play, that's part of it. But I do think your ties to the Wabash Valley in particular, and people can wax nostalgic about the years you played in that classic and they saw you. So you want a lot of those people over there rooting for Terre Haute North or South or West Vigo. So how does that feel to have, like you said, really people that were strangers to you kind of feel like they're part of your extended family now?
Yeah, it's like you can't describe it with words. When you've done your job and you've done it to your best ability, typically that's kind of what follows. People like to be able to follow, your game and who you're playing for and stats and all that stuff. And I kind of look through all of that. I look past it and I try to, meet with the individual and look through all the, people look at me at basketball and it's like, oh, a basketball player, this, and this, and this. And when I get to finally meet those people, I want them to know, I'm a man of God. I'm just a regular person. I want to sit here with you and have a conversation like a regular person. I'm not better at you than anything, and you're probably better at me than a lot of things. So being able to have those people, on my back and right behind me and supporting me, and not just me, but the Sycamore community in general, it's special. It's been special. It's going to be special, especially with this year. So.
And Cooper, you've also been very involved in a number of community activities throughout the year. And once again, if you're at games, you see the young people that are coming up to you, just wanting to reach out to you, whether it's an autograph or just to kind of touch you. And how has that been to be a role model, to be in that position when you see young people? And I'm sure you can remember back the days when you were that young guy going to collegiate games. How does that feel now that you're in that role position?
Yeah, it took me a little bit to understand what it truly meant. And I'm not old, don't get me wrong, but I'm getting to that point, I've got to realize it's about the next generation. And whether they want to be the best doctors in the world or the best basketball player in the world or whatever it is, whatever I can do to help them and motivate them to just be the best they can be at whatever they do. If that's a simple high five, if that's signing something, whatever it takes, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. So.
Well, you're definitely not old.
Yeah.
Sure, you will double down on that one, that you are not old. Now, you had a great start to this season. It's been exciting to see your performance, and I know you've worked so hard to get to that point. Of course, those in attendance at the recent game, where I know that there was some commentary coming from people about the officiating that game, and as it turned out, play got a little rough, maybe out of hand, and it resulted in a circumstance that you sustained an injury. So can you talk about that and how you're progressing? Because I know left a lot of people pretty upset to see you go out and have to be assisted off the court.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shot in the heart to me. It didn't feel very good, at the time, and it wasn't no joke, but it just ended up being a couple bone bruises on my knee, and doc said about 2 to 4 weeks. He said you'll have a little bit of pain throughout, but it won't be anything major. So it's not like I'm missing big time or anything. But at this point, it's just about comfortability, getting back in the flow, getting back in tip-top shape, and the way that we're playing. I got to be able to contribute in any which way that I can. And I can't be 50% doing that. I can't be 60. I can't be 70. I've got to give it everything I've got. And I've got to be 100%. So progressing really well. I got practice about 60, 70% most of the day today, and just slowly progressing back to hopefully be back in the next game or two. So
Cooper, of course, throughout your career, and particularly the way the season had started, and in the game where you sustained your injury, there was no doubt that the team's looking to you. You're the leader of the team, and when you went out, you could see team react, and of course, coach had to do a little work and get everybody going again.
Yeah.
But how you can explain to our viewers how that is for you, on one hand being a player and being a leader on the court, and then when you're in a position now rehabilitating to get back on the court, how do you still carry out that leadership role when you're not actually on the court?
Yeah, it's all about communication, within the team. And, I love every one of them like they're my brother, like they're my actual family. So, whether I'm texting them before a game, telling them to do what they do best, and or if it's after the game, telling them great job or whatever it is. And then once they get home, especially from this road trip, being able to talk with them and being able to make some jokes about the game, and making things fun with them, keeping that relationship in check, and understanding, it's all about the next game. My years here, I've progressively learned, how to get to the next game. This year is a little different because we're winning at a much higher pace than I ever have since I've been here. So I'm still in a learning process as well. So the biggest key for that is just being able to be communicative with my teammates, my coaches, and everybody else. So
now, of course, you've got a lot of young players as well as young additions to the squad this year. How are you, as a veteran of the team as well as veteran of the Indiana State program, able to impart your wisdom on those new players to the program?
Yeah, the main focus on just helping guys and giving them the wisdom that I know is just understanding what they're great at. Rob Martin to Cam Crawford, to the guys that aren't getting so much minutes, to the new guys of Mason Miller, Cade McKnight. Trent Gibson's doing a great job this year. So just being able to help these guys understand what the Valley's going to be like, night in and night out is probably the biggest thing with me. And it's a dogfight. It's going to be, and it can't be hit or miss, and it can't be we're going to test the waters and see what kind of game we have to play tonight. It's got to be all out all the time when you're playing in this Valley. And I've lost a lot of close games, being here at Indiana State, and quite frankly, I'm kind of over that, and being able to express that to them is just being able to build a new culture and have them understand that, hey, we're tired of losing close games. We want to win close games. We want to win games by 20, 30 points. That's what we want to get to. And it just raises the bar for every single player that's out there with you. So.
Of course, you've always been regarded as a scorer and a shooter. You used to say, I think at the high schools in Terre Haute, that when you got off the bus, you were in range. So I know that's been a big part of your game the entire time that you played, but what would you say from your collegiate standpoint, the area that your game that's most evolved or changed over the course of your collegiate career?
I just think overall, just seeing the floor, being able to be a two-way player and being able to, and I don't consider myself, a great defensive player by any means, but I do it, I feel like pretty sound, technically wise. I do it to my best ability. And, whether I'm guarding somebody that's 10 times faster than me or 10 times stronger than me, I just always try to find ways to be able to play to their weakness and do things like that. So just letting the game slow down, especially when I got to this position of, college basketball. I mean, the speed from high school to college it's completely different. I think that's something that people don't recognize all the time, and being able to understand the game at a slower pace than how fast it's truly being played. But just being able to play on both sides of the ball and understanding that, hey, you can't just put the ball in 10 times and let the other player put the ball in 10 times and expect to win. So
of course, that's the area that your game, there's no question you've worked so hard on, and noticed how well you're doing in that. For our viewers, and they're sons or daughters or grandsons or granddaughters, what would be the single most important aspect about that defense that you think people could work on to improve that area of their game?
Yeah, you just got to want it. I mean, there's no other words I can say. You can watch all these professionals give you details and tips on, hey, this player doesn't want to go left, or he shoots 20% going to his right hand. You can do all these scouting reports, but at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to really understand when you've got somebody across from you that's just as good as a player as you are, that you've got to want it more than what he does. And quite frankly, that's kind of where I kind of flipped my switch and just realized, hey, like, I want to win this game more than anybody that steps in front of me.
So as much time as you guys spend preparing, or the coaches spend in getting you prepared, and then practicing in games and travel, oftentimes people overlook your role as a student as well as a student athlete. So can you talk about how things are with you, what you're majoring in and your progression academically?
Yeah, so I got my bachelor. Did sports recreation and management. So it's a bachelor in science degree, and I finished that off just this past summer. And I'm just in another undergrad currently right now with criminology, kind of dabbing into that a little bit just to learn. And for the most part, it's tough, especially when you're in your undergrad studies and you don't have your degree. There's not a lot of options for you to understand, hey, I want to do this, but maybe I don't like this class, or I want to do this, but maybe I don't like this class. And it's tough, especially being able to balance, your individual work to, game time, to be able to get assignments in on time. It's tough. And it's a high bar for a lot of these athletes to be able to do it. And, quite frankly, I wasn't the best at it, but I did more than enough to be able to get to it. So.
That's great. Now, Cooper, of course, you have a little different perspective than some, just given your notoriety with the basketball and of course, being in such a public position when thousands of people are out there to watch you as a member of the Sycamore community. But how would you characterize, the role and your view of Terre Haute and the Wabash Valley as a student at the university, and are there positive and negatives that you would point out? We've talked a lot about that with regard to how the city of Terre Haute embraces the university and vice versa. How would you say the perspective of a student is about that relationship?
It's especially, as long as I've been here, the way it's changed is unreal. I mean, you can definitely tell, especially within the university, people are wanting to hit a next level kind of thing, whether it's been the $2 million big screen we got in the Holman, to the way they renovated it, to what they're planning on doing when they just tore down the old dorms over there right next to campus. I mean, they've got plans, hopefully within the next 5-10 years that it'll really show. But just Terre Haute in general, it's been home to me. I mean, the people around here has been family, cared for me just as much as I cared for them. And the biggest thing, the support system is extremely good. It is. People are, I just seen another big donation that was given today for an $8 million donation. So there's extremely high notoriety, support around, the university. But I think we could say that we could get more community involvement, whether it's just showing up to not just basketball games, but I mean, our baseball team was top 25 in the country the last couple years, and you wouldn't have known it if you went to the game. So just overall in general, I think the community could see and come and support these athletes, and not just myself, but these other guys. They work their butt off. They deserve to be able to have people to come and cheer them on and root for their home team and do those things. But I really don't have anything negative to say about this community. It's been extremely nice to me. It's been, everything and more, a kid growing up could wish or ask for. But the overall thing, I would just say, just the support and the fan base would be the biggest thing.
Of course, you, as I said, have been in the public eye, but any thoughts about how that relationship could improve, or any thoughts other than we encourage, of course, everybody to come out and support all the athletic teams, men and women's, and there's great venues, like you said, whether it's the baseball field or the women's soccer, the men's or women's basketball at the Holman Center. But other things that you would observe, or you've heard other students, young people talk about, ways that maybe help to bridge that gap?
I think the biggest thing, it starts with us. I think community involvement within the university athletes themselves has got to grow. You can't have a relationship if you don't know the person. So I think first and foremost, it's got to grow within the athletes themselves. They've got to have the desire and the want that they want to do good for this community. And you know what typically happens when you do a lot of good things for this community and you meet new people, they come and support you as well. So and I know across the board we do a lot of community work stuff, and some of it's hit or miss with some of the teams, but I mean for the most part, we're out there trying to do everything we can to win a game for the community. But it's got to start with us, I think. I mean, you guys have done, I know, a tremendous amount to be able to tell people to, hey, come out and watch these guys. They're fun to watch. It's fun to be able to be out there and be in that atmosphere and environment, and we love that. We love people who's doing that for us. But I think the biggest thing is it's going to start with us as an athlete, to be able to bring these people in.
So you're going to be playing basketball a long time, I foresee, but when we had a crystal ball looking ahead, when your basketball playing days are over for many, many years from now, what do you see in the future for Cooper Neese?
I'm leaving it wide open.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that I love to do. There's nothing I would never turn anything down right off the bat. I'm not that kind of person. When it comes to that ball quits dribbling, I want something to be able to do that I love just as much as I love playing this game. That's my goal when I get into it. Whether that's after this season or whether that's 10 years from now and I'm still playing, I don't know that, and I'll know more hopefully come April, or hopefully it's past April because we'll be playing in the Final Four.
Absolutely, that's right.
But no, I'm leaving it wide open. There's nothing that I would ever turn down, or off the spot or anything like that.
So Cooper, also, of course, there's been a lot of discussion locally, statewide, nationally, getting young people, and there have been a lot of involved in politics, and particularly encouraging them to vote, and that's been a big factor in elections recently. How would you say that interest in elections and the political process is on the Indiana State campus among students?
I definitely keep up with it, especially the support and round bases that I have, the people like yourself and Miss Vicky, and that was probably the main reason I keep up with it, because I support people like you guys yourself, and but just on campus in general, I think it's getting there. The voting aspect of it is getting there. I think the next step is that point is to actually get people to understand what they're voting for, who they're voting for, and what those people that they're voting for, what they believe in, what they stand for, and what they plan to do with this community. And I think that's the next step for people to realize and understand, what they're not just grabbing a sheet and checking names because they were told to do it. They're doing it because they truly want better for, themselves and their community. So.
Of course, we've had some athletes and some maybe not as favorable running for office lately, but what are your thoughts? Have you given any consideration yourself when you're done playing basketball about seeking public office?
I haven't really thought about it. Miss Vicky's the nicest person in the world, and she's thrown some ideas in my head. But no, when that time comes, if there's anything that I'll put my full, attention and effort, like I said, come April, to really decipher what I want to do and how I want to do it, and give it my best ability in whatever I do. So
that's awesome. So got some big games coming up with the Sycamores, and of course we encourage everybody to get out to the Holman Center, and of course these Valley games are within a driving distance, so it's a great day trip for people to take to come out on the road and get to these hostile environments and make them less hostile for you guys. But how important is that? I know that recently the Drake game, the crowd was electric, and it looked like the players really responded to that. How important is the crowd in those settings?
Absolutely. They're extremely important, and there's no better way to explain it than when you've got a good crowd, especially like the Drake game, they are our sixth man, and it gives us tremendous amount of energy, both ends of the floor. We feed off, that positive, that great energy, almost every play. And when you have a crowd that's into it just as much as your players are, there's really no stopping, what our possibilities would be.
So, of course, the team came in, and the so-called experts have predetermined how the Sycamores were going to do this year, and also predicted how other teams might fare. And you guys have had the opportunity to play Drake at the Holman Center, then go to Southern Illinois, teams that were at least projected to be number 1 and 2 in the league. And last time I checked, the final score looked like the Sycamores came out on the winning end of both those contests. Can you talk about the importance of those wins and starting off the season in that way?
Yeah, I mean it's huge, honestly. It's funny you say that because I made a tweet earlier this year that somebody said that we were picked to finish 7th, and I said, well, I've got something for that poll that you've got going there. So, but no, I mean the top 2 teams that were picked to finish 1st and 2nd, to be able to pick both them off, and especially SIU with their place, those are wins you typically don't get across any league, in general. And just I've known since about June 6th, since we started practicing, that we had something special and up and coming. And I get to see what everybody else doesn't, on a day-to-day basis on what we're going to be, how we're going to play. And so just being able to go into those 2 games and understand that, hey, you're not the underdog. You're supposed to go out here and you're supposed to win these games. And we've done exactly that. So
now, if you're a veteran, but I assume particularly for your younger players, that's got to be a confidence boost for them and helps as you move forward for the games that are on your schedule coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it holds them to a standard too, even through their years, that when they grow up here, and the standard's being set right now. And that's something that I think, year to year basis, when you bring new guys in, or freshmen, or whoever it is, once you make your culture what it is and your standard what it is on winning these games, everybody else just follows. So,
of course, I assume the coach and players like you remind people we're only as good as our next game, so we can't be patting ourselves on the back as we're going on to the next game. We've got to be worried about the next opponent. I assume that's an important thing when you're having success.
Absolutely.
To keep people working just as hard.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, Cooper, we sure appreciate you joining us. It's been a delight, of course, to watch you out there competing. We're looking forward to seeing you back out there in the Holman Center and at other venues. And we hope you have a great holiday season and have a Merry Christmas. And till our next chat, I'm Joe Etling. Thanks for joining us. God bless you all. Have a great night.
OCRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.